Hello, welcome back to Trail Buddy. Tonight we're going to continue with our resto mod and we're going to start on our rear taillight bracket assembly. We'll get that mounted. We've got our cool kit that we carry, TB400. So this has the grommets and all the bolts and all the stuff to get that bracket on. So the isolator, all those pieces. We've got our new taillight bracket, which is TB545. So this replicates the OEM original. And then we've got our wire harness grommet that goes through the frame. So let's dig in. So we've got our taillight assembly here. It's got the nice chrome back, kind of a rubber plastic isolator, and then it all comes with the fasteners. But one thing to note before you go ahead and put your taillight bracket on is you need to mount this guy here, your taillight, because you can't get access, easily get access to these screws in the back. So we'll dig in on that. We'll put that in right now before we give ourselves any problems moving forward. So I don't have my battery in, so I can put my metal pieces down here without getting exciting. These screws out. They're really long for some reason. I imagine they got the thread inserts in here behind the chrome housing, a little deep. So, all right, juggling all my parts and pieces. So we get the wire in. We'll hold that. Then we gotta get all of our pieces in line. Hardest thing to get is that rubber where you want it. I'll start one. Just get it going. All right. Then second. What I'm doing right now is I'm trying to get the rubber piece, the bracket, and the taillight all concentric around that hole, all in line. What can stink is you can be sitting here trying to get that screw through all three pieces, and then you could just be fighting it because that rubber grommet isolator is really pretty tight. So what helps for this is just snug them so you feel the rubber compress, and then double check to make sure your bracket, because it has a little bit of wiggle room, not a ton but enough, and you just want to make sure it's not crooked when you go to tighten it up. All right. So here we are. We're together now. I'm gonna just double check, make sure everything's aligning. Now, do not be surprised if you feel that this is not dead on. Now, the fender has an elongated hole to help with a little bit of adjustment, and the top ones are a bit oversized to help with that. But over the years, what happens often is people pick up the bike by this back fender here, and it ends up crushing the fender here, and it pulls it up and gets it all out of whack. So now all your stuff's not lining up, and we'll get calls sometimes to say, hey, this doesn't work, it's all not right. But most of the time, there's something tweaked here that's been broken or wore over the years. We are good here. Now, we'll get our grommet to go through the hole to isolate the wires. Got our Honda grommet. Shove that in here. And then we have our three pieces for our isolators. So we've got our rubber that isolate the bracket. There's two up here on the top and one below. And we've got our little crush stop or sleeve that keeps it from crushing the rubber. And then there's a large, we'll call it a fender washer, that holds on top of the rubber, compresses everything together. So the easiest thing on these guys is we're going to cut open each one of these, and we're going to put the rubber grommets in each hole of the taillight bracket. Then we can insert the, call it the crush sleeve, and then we can bolt it down. Oh, parts are running away. Sometimes it helps to shoot these with a little WD-40 if you're finding that they're hard to get in, or soapy water too. WD-40 works pretty good. Let that part go. All right, got the one for the bottom here. This is some exciting video here, watching me put some grommets in. All right, isolators. Got one. Got two. Three. And I dropped that one. Now, grab these washers. We'll get these handy. One. Two. And three. Oh, I got a fourth one. Four. All right, so let's start at the top. Put that here. Put my two washers aside. We'll put our rubber crush sleeve in here, like a so, like that. And I'm going to go ahead and put this bottom one in while I'm here. I don't drop it off the top of the bike. And then we've got our M6 here with our washer on it. And we'll put our heavy washer on through. So I'm just going to start it. You want to kind of keep it loose so that way you can manipulate it and get all the fasteners started. The worst thing you could do is just socket one down, because then it will, if it's all kinked over. And before I put this down, I'm going to also run my wires through this rubber grommet through the frame. There we go. And so in the kit, it comes with the two little washers in there. I'm probably just going to negate those and just go with the heavy ones for now. Let's see what that looks like. All right, got that started. Then we have our final one down here that shoots through. All right, we've got everything on. I can tell that my fender's a little off. When you get down and look, not terrible. Looks like my fender's more tweaked. It's not the taillight bracket. So these are our old original ones. We did try to tap out. This one did suffer from that being bent by picking it up. I mean, you got the whole way of the motorcycle on these fenders, and over the years it just crushes in. So we did pound that metal back to try to get it to where it was good, but we can also bend it back to where it's supposed to be. That looks good. All right, so everything's started. I will get my 10 millimeter and we will sock these down. Now the tough thing on these is that with the rubber, it almost feels like these screws are too short, but as it crushes, and you want to tighten these till they hit the metal isolators or crush washers, spacers, and get that tight. And I can feel the screw coming through the bottom or bolt. There we go. Now our last one down here, back of the tail light. All right, so now we'll have to make our connections in the back. They should actually match up. I will double check with my wiring diagram, but I believe it's brown, green with a red stripe, or green with a yellow stripe to green with a yellow stripe. And then green for ground. All right, that is our taillight bracket. So now I think we'll move on to our hubs. On to our hub disassembly. So this one, we're going to take out our snap ring that holds our rear sprocket on. We're going to take out some of our seals, and we're going to remove our bearings. So the tools that you're going to want for this project is we've got our snap ring pliers. Got to make sure that your probes here are the appropriate size, and put your hand over top of it as you're taking it apart so it doesn't go shooting across the shop. We've got our seal removing tool, and then we also have our kit here, which a lot of people won't have, but we're going to use this one because it's a lot nicer to get the bearings out. So we have our bearing removal tool here. So it's pretty much a slide hammer, and it's got a cullet gripper that goes inside the idea of that bearing, opens up, and you can pop it right out. It's the nicest way to go. You can also get a long, thin punch and work your way out from this side, punching out the other bearing. So you can do that if that's all you have. But for us, let's start with the front hub. So most important thing is make sure that your tire is empty of air, because as you take this apart, if this is overinflated or inflated high, the steel rims aren't so much of a trouble, but there's also aluminum ones out there. What happens is as you take this apart, it will bend. I've had it to where I've had other people take these apart and they've had air in it, and you take the hub out, might be not so problem. And then you start removing these 10 millimeters, and you can take the first two out, and then all of a sudden you got the last two, and you can bend these rims with the power that's in this air of the tire. So just be careful, look out for that. So here we will start removing our seal. Got that sealed. Now our bearing. So you don't always have to replace these, but what you want to feel for, and you shove your finger right in the idea of that, and then try to turn it. And what you're looking for is you'll feel little like resistance spots, like you feel the bearings turning over. That is an indication that these guys are going bad. Now, these are sealed. They're not repackable, and most of the time these are bad. And it's just cheap insurance, and they're actually really pretty inexpensive with the hub bearing kits that we have. Yeah, that one's definitely toast. That one is really bad. And they're just a cheap thing to replace. So in our kit, we've got a 10 millimeter. And what we'll need to do is take this, and it will spread that collet apart to be able to pinch inside there. So get that going until you got good resistance. Install our slide hammer. Whoop. Did not have that tight enough. Well, this is wore out. So lubrication. Bearing. All right, so you repeat that procedure here on both sides. One thing you want to do is maybe keep, and sometimes these can go bad, but a lot of times if the rubber is still pliable and there's no rips or tears, you can clean these up and reuse these. All right, so there's also a spacer inside here, right here. That's what separates the bearing. So when you tighten your axle, this is kind of the bridge, and that's what keeps all the clamping force on the inside diameter of that bearing. So do not lose this either. Those are kind of actually hard to find, per se. And we've got one more bearing to go on this other side, and then I'll shoot a little bit of lube in there to break that up. Sometimes a little heat is okay, especially if you're going to get rid of the bearings anyways. Most important part of this is to look as graceful as you can. Now I'm going to tighten this up, clamp on the inside of that bearing the best I absolutely can. One more. There we go. This way I don't get a shower and PBR blaster. Ta-da! Bearing. All right. And those are dry and crusty on the inside. So the outsides are sealed, the insides are not. So you can actually see all the crud inside that bearing. Now, when you disassemble this hub, now these bolts inside here, inside the encapsulated hex head side, now these are called a heavy hex nut. So these are actually a special nut where they're larger in hexagonal, that's a word, diameter than a standard nut. So if you put a standard nut in here, it'll move around a little bit more than these heavy hex nuts. So keep these in a special spot. Those are not like a standard I believe it's an 8mm nut. So, start here. Not gonna work. Grab my ratchet. Ooh, those are torqued. I'll just break these loose. All right, now we can use the tool. And we will take our nice fancy Honda fasteners, the Magic 8 on the end of them, and we will save those for our actual restorations, and we will not use it on our resto mod. Just for the fact if we're doing like a full-blown restoration, these are cool to have. Little detail. Put those aside in our fastener box. And we'll grab our heavy hex nuts into the fastener box. So we've got our old Bridgestone trail wing tires. So these are original. These tires are older than I am. But if we were to go any further, we're going to use our own rims for this piece here. Because these can be a nightmare to take off, depending on if they're rusted onto the bead. So if I was going to continue further, I would, take my 10mm out, and then we have the luxury of a bead breaker over here in our tire machine. So we would bust these beads, take these apart, sandblast them, clean them up and then paint them with the cloud silver. But for us, we are not. We are using our own aftermarket rims. So now with our hub, we're just going to make sure that there's no cracks or damage anywhere. And we're going to make sure that the brake drum isn't excessively wore. We look good enough there. And all right, so what we'll do with this one is we'll get this in the sandblaster, and we'll clean this one up. Now, originally these should be cloud silver, and the brake holder or housing, that should be like a semi-polished aluminum. So this would match the cloud silver that you're going to do on your engine cases and your rims. So that makes it look really good when these all match. So I would recommend, if you're doing that, to paint these and then paint your rims to match. Onto our rear. So disassembling this is semi-easy. We just need to make sure that we've got our snap ring and careful that those don't go flying across the shop. So I've got my ratchet snap ring pliers, which I like, but are kind of a pain in the butt because you got to release the lock. So we've got our snap ring here, and that holds our sprocket on. So this is a big boy sprocket here because this was on an H model. If I remember right, these are 44 tooth. Yep. Well, this one's a 42. I believe it's either 44 or 45 stock. And what we're going to double check is we've got a little rubber isolators in here, and we've got our dust shield on the inside. So this guy we're going to want to take off, clean up, and reuse. And that slides right on these rectangular bosses, and these are what turn the bike. Those go inside the rubber dampeners. So if you're on your bike and it really, really feels like this is wiggling a lot, it's either your snap ring broke that holds it on. I know you got some real bad problems happening, or these little receivers in here, these wear out. It takes a long time, but they get old, they rot. Or if your bike's got high mileage, these will go. These are like little cushions. So the difference between these and like say an off-road bike are direct bolt. So we also sell a bolt-on hub, which is really good for off-road and okay for on-road. But the difference you get with the OEM hub is these, when you shift or hit the gear hard, they kind of have just a nice little cushion on the road where you don't really feel like you're hitting that hard, or you don't. It's a little nice little cushion. So this guy will keep clean. These we will double check. We'll pop those out and get that ready to paint. And then what we'll do here is we got our spacer. We'll keep this. This needs to be cleaned. And we will take out our seal here with our tool. So what I'm doing with this guy is I'm getting this lip right underneath the inside of the seal, and you can just use this body here and you can rock that up. It pulls it out real clean. You could even, I think this one's got to be replaced. This one looks bad, but if they were good, this tool really helps you to be able to reuse these if they're in good shape. All right, so we've got this guy. Nice and greasy, so hopefully that. And I already have the bearings for this, but we'll give it a check. That was actually not too bad. We'll go on the brake side. That one is really bad. All right, so we'll take this apart off camera because we showed you on the front. It's exactly the same way. We're going to get our bearing puller tool in here. We'll put that in there, we'll pop it out. We'll make sure we don't lose our spacer and we don't lose our heavy hex nuts here on the back side. So we'll get these out because we're going to end up sandblasting this, cleaning this up. And for inspection, what you want to look at on this rear hub, lots of cobwebs, is this snap ring groove here. On this can, not so much on the Hondas, but let's say if you were to get some of the aftermarket clone versions, we don't even sell those kind anymore because Honda has an actual embedded piece of metal here that the snap ring groove is cut into, so that lasts way longer. A lot of the Chinese ones and aftermarket ones are out there. The snap ring groove is actually just cut into aluminum, and that does not hold up, especially for putting in aftermarket engines. I mean, it might hold up on a 50, but we have not had good luck with those. So we stay away from any product that has that snap ring groove in there. What we do, to the most part, is we default to the bolt style sprocket in the rear. That is the strongest thing you can absolutely put on these bikes. And or this OEM one. So if you got an aftermarket bike, you can always put an OEM one on there if you want that little bit of cushion. Which people that ride them on the road, they say they can actually notice a difference. I don't ride on the road a ton with these bikes. I'm more of a dual sport guy. I like off-road. But that's the only thing you really got to look at, other than cracking and or making sure that there's no excessive grooves or wear inside the brake drum. This one looks really, really pretty good. So we'll get this apart and we'll get ready for sandblasting and painting. All right, we're wrapping up for tonight. So we got our taillight bracket assembly in and our resto mod. We've got our hubs taken apart. So what we'll do next is put these in the parts washer. We'll get all the grease and everything off, and then we'll move to the sandblaster. Get them sandblasted up nice, and we'll get them painted the next time. One other thing I wanted to double check, and kind of a cool or a good rule of thumb is, when you have seals and stuff like this, it's a really good idea to keep these old ones, and then do not throw them away till you get the new ones in. So why that matters is you really want to keep these guys to check the OD and the ID. So that way you know that these are the new parts you have match the old ones you're taking off. Because these need to seal, they need to have a good, and sometimes you'll get the part numbers in and like it should be right, you think it's right, you go put it in, and then it's just leaking, especially in the motors. But cool rule of thumb to do, keep these, do not throw them away until you have your new ones. That way you can verify. Well, that ends the video tonight. Hope you liked what you've seen. You can find more of these parts on mytrailbuddy.com.